Good evening. Welcome to PoliticIt podcast. Tonight we have Katy Hall with us. Katy's a representative in Utah.
Thanks for having me, John.
It's good to have you back. So, you know, we've had conversations before.
Yeah.
Let's just talk very briefly about who you are, and so that people that didn't watch the last one will know.
Thanks.
And you know, why'd you run for a house in the first place?
Yeah, I tell people a moment of weakness is what made me run. No.
Yeah.
I'm Katy Hall. I live in South Ogden, and I represent District 11 in the House of Representatives.
So that's house that actually goes in. Does that go into Davis County too?
Yep. So I have part Weber and part Davis County.
Okay.
And I'm a nurse, and have 4 boys and an amazing husband. And I just kind of got into this because I saw some things that were happening that I was like, what's going on? And I thought, I'm going to run and just push back and let people know that there's people watching. And I ended up I knocked every door I could knock on, and people felt the same way I did. And
beat a long-term incumbent.
Yeah, and then they ended up voting me in 2 years ago. And so this is my 3rd session, and it's been an interesting ride for sure.
So you just got through re-election again?
Yep. Nobody ran
without an opponent.
I know nobody ran against me this last time. So
how about that?
I don't know that I'll be that lucky again.
So Katy, you've done a lot of pretty heavy lifts in the past.
Yep.
I mean, you did the work on the transgender surgeries and hormone blockers.
Yep.
You did the DEI bill.
Yep.
Right, and so those were pretty big lifts.
Yeah, I figured if I'm going to be in here, I don't know how long I'll be in here. I may as well do things that I'm passionate about and try to make a difference and do it in the best way I know how. And we really worked on both of those bills that you mentioned with as many stakeholders as we could find, and tried to find a good common sense way through those difficult issues. Yeah. And they've both been really worked out really well.
Well, you know, it's interesting with the DEI stuff. We were a little bit ahead of the curve, weren't we?
Yes, we are.
You look at what's happening now.
Yeah. And I think we did it in the right way. I really do. I think it was a very common sense approach to, hey, these are the things that we basically just highlighted. This is discrimination, and it was kind of points to some of those programs were doing, and we're just saying this is discrimination, get it out. And then thankfully we have a really great higher ed board and higher ed commissioner that was very willing to help implement those things and help the institutions implement those things, and we're seeing really great results.
Well, I was talking to President Mortensen, and they basically just, I mean, they named their centers for student success.
Student success, yeah, and they have seen over double the amount of students this past fall than they saw the fall before at all of their designation-based centers that they had, the 8 designation-based centers that they've had. They've seen over double. I think that's an amazing statistic. Yeah. And it shows that that's working.
And they're actually very happy that it's really focused on helping students succeed.
Yeah.
Any student.
Right. And I understand there's been adjustments, and not everybody is perfectly happy with it, but they're actually doing what we asked them to do. And I think if we just keep going in that vein, things will just get better and better, and we can help as many people that need help on our campuses as need it, regardless of what they look like or how they identify.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's a great success.
Yeah.
I think we still have problems, right, with some of the universities that haven't taken it quite as far as, President Mortensen or President Randall at the U.
Well, and these things didn't happen overnight, right? So they're not going to get fixed overnight either. And all we can do is just keep pushing towards, what we all want. And that's inclusion for everyone.
Right.
Not to the point of exclusion, and diversity, but not to the point of categorizing and segregating, and equality of opportunity. And that's why we named the bill that, because we want everyone to have an equal opportunity to things. So I think it's working.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have to really bring people together, come up with common sense solutions. You've got a bill this year on the emergency rooms that, last year there was a lot of controversy about, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what you've done there?
Thanks. That was a tough bill. That was a tough lift. It came to me kind of late in the last session, got drafted really late, and we, to be honest, we probably didn't get as much stakeholder input as we needed last year. And so it got circled in the Senate and allowed me to do the work like right after and just get going on it. I was talking to one of the lobbyists last week, and he said, yeah, people don't normally just jump right on things after the interim, and you did that last year, and that's probably part of why you're at this point this year. So we just jumped right in. I said, let's have some meetings. Like, I think our first one was either in April or May, and we just had a lot of meetings. I met with the physicians, I met with nurses, I met with hospital administrators, lobbyists, and then I got all of them in the room together 2 or 3 times, and there was some fireworks on a couple of those meetings, but I think in the end we came up with a really good policy.
Okay, so for the viewers that are listening, can you kind of
break it down? Yeah.
Can you kind of just talk about what it exactly does and what problem that was out there?
Yeah. So ER physicians and some ER nurses reached out to me last year. What was it? Yeah, a little over a year ago, and said some of these freestanding emergency rooms that are opening up along the Wasatch Front were maybe opening up less robust than the first ones that started opening about 10 to 12 years ago. Kind of pulling back some of the resources and even staffing, which is what allows our ER physicians and nurses to do their job to the best of their ability. I think when people see emergency room on a sign on a building and go there for an emergency, they deserve emergency care, right? And they're getting charged that cost of care. So basically this bill is just saying, if you're going to charge as an emergency room, you're going to advertise as an emergency room, there's a minimum set of standards that you need to adhere to get that basic level of emergency care where they can either take care of you all the way there or be able to stabilize you well enough to get you to a hospital-based emergency room and then to the hospital. So if you, in the bill, it basically says, you need an ER board-certified physician, you need 2 nurses, you need a respiratory-trained person that's besides those 3, you need a respiratory-trained person, you need lab technicians that actually run the labs, so we don't have our nurses taking time away from patient care to run labs, because we were seeing that. You need to have the equipment and everything necessary to do that, plus X-ray, CT, and all those things, and someone to do that. And that's basically the minimum of it. And blood. In some of the ERs that we visited over the summer, there was some lacking. Some things of those were lacking.
Right.
And so we just kind of put it all in. That's the minimum standards. And then we also put some transparency in. So they have to have signage that says, this is an emergency room. It's not an Instacare. You'll be charged emergency room prices, so that people don't go in there expecting it to be an urgent care and then get a huge bill.
Right.
Yeah. And then we as a compromise, we've allowed, because in DHS rule, there was a limit as to how many they could open up. And so we've expanded that moderately, so that as long as they have these things, then you could open more. Our population is growing, and we have needs. Well, and
the closer you are to the problem, might save some lives.
So as long as, but that's why we need those minimum standards in there,
because then they can't just they can't just open up something that really isn't what they're advertising.
Exactly. So it took a lot of work and a lot of pushback from some stakeholders, but eventually we got everybody to the table and to some consensus on it, which if you'd have asked me last year if I thought that would have happened, I don't think I would have believed you.
Well, there's always that kind of weighing two competing interests, right? I mean, hospitals making money, right?
Right, and I'm not
doctors
opposed to that.
making money.
Yeah.
But also the quality of care that
Right.
patients expect.
Right. Provide what you're charging. That's basically, it's a consumer protection as well, as well as public safety bill.
So we'll take a break. We're going to come right back.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to PoliticIt. We've got Katy Hall with us, Representative Katy Hall. So nice to have you. Now, we were talking about your emergency room bill. Mm-hmm. Sounds like that's in a good place. Where exactly is that in the process?
Yeah, it's just sitting on the Senate floor waiting for a vote it's on the second reading calendar.
Oh, so you've actually passed it out of committee already?
Yep, unanimously in both committees and unanimously off the House floor. So.
Oh, it was.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's hope that this isn't a typical bill that goes to the Senate to die, right?
It better not be. It better not be. There's a lot of people that are
have put
waiting.
A lot of time.
They're waiting for it. I have nurses and doctors that keep texting me
and
wanting to know where it's at.
It's interesting how you got the hospitals on board too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Balancing all those things. So.
Yeah, I think. I can't speak for them, but I'm hopeful that they saw what the issues were and decided that it's right thing to do.
So you're in the middle of a medical malpractice bill too.
Yeah.
I know that one's really not all worked out.
It's not all worked out.
Can you explain a little bit about where that's going?
Yeah, and the reasons for that one, I don't know if people realize it, and maybe they do with how long it takes maybe to see your physician sometimes, but we have a doctor shortage going on in the state. I talked to some people today who think, there's about 500 job postings out there for physicians, mostly family practice, but a lot of our specialties too. OB especially is one. And this just hits at some of the issues regarding medical malpractice and maybe frivolous lawsuits that keep getting pushed along when they've been found by a pre-litigation panel to be non-meritorious. And so we're just kind of trying to find the right balance of some guardrails to put around that so that we don't have as many of the frivolous things going on. When somebody gets hurt and there's been malpractice, they absolutely need to sue and need to be recompensed for what's happened. And nobody's perfect, right? No physician's perfect.
Well, that's
no
what
nurse
insurance
perfect.
is
That's
for,
what
right?
it's for. But when there may be times where it's abused and things are being pushed just to try to settle, and that just makes everybody's prices go up. It makes our doctors burn out and want to be done and retire early, and we know of that. I mean, it's anecdotal. Obviously, that's a hard stat to track, but we all know of physicians who maybe have hung it up early or gone to another state because their malpractice premiums are lower. And
is it worse in Utah or?
No, we have pretty good rates because we do have a cap on non-economic damages right now, and so we're trying to keep that cap on the non-economic damages, not increase that, because that is helping keep the rates low. But at the same time, it's not just about that. It's also the mental health of our healthcare providers. I mean,
if you're being brought into court every week.
It's not even that much, but when it does happen, it's tough on them. It's a mental strain for months and possibly even years, depending on how long it goes. And so there's a lot of reasons for that we're trying to push a little something with some tort reform and just get it so that our physicians feel like they can just do their job and do it in a way that is better for everyone and can help keep our prices down and keep their mental health up so that they want to continue working. They put a lot of years. It takes like 11 to 17 years sometimes for a physician to be fully trained.
Right.
And they are not making they're not making a living wage before then, you know, that whole time they come out with like $500,000 or more in loans.
Right.
And sometimes it feels like they're made to be the bad guy in these situations. And it's like, you know, they got to pay off their loans. They got to take care of things, and they've already started so late in their age of working. There's maybe 20 to 30 years of really good work. And if they retire early, then
that hurts all of us.
It hurts all of us.
Yeah.
It hurts all of us.
So I'm kind of a car guy. There's another bill.
This is one of my favorites.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tax thing, right?
Yeah. We're collecting double taxes and fees on car registrations in a lot of cases. So if you register your car in, say, January, you register your car, you're paying for the whole year, no matter when you register it. If you register it in March, you're paying for a whole year. And
that's the registration fees and the taxes.
Registration, right? And then the it's like, I can't remember
personal
the name of it.
Tax.
It's like a personal property tax. Both of those together. And so you register your car, let's make the numbers easy. You register your car for $240 in February. Right. Well, 2 months later, you sell your car and you sell it to someone else. They re-register that car, and you have to register your new car. So they re-register your car that you sold
that still
to them,
has 9 months.
That still has 10 months on it, and then they're paying for another year of registration. And so we're double collecting for that 10 months. So my bill would say, if that happens, you can get online. They'll have a program, get online, show that you've registered your car, and you can apply for a refund on those months of unused months of registration. And so I think it's a really good policy. I don't think we should be double taxing. I think we should give people back that money. In some cases, it may be a small amount and people won't even worry about it. You know, if it's just a month or two left, I probably wouldn't worry about it. But if it's 6 months or 9 months, I had a constituent after I came out with this, and he told me a story. He had bought a car from a dealership. They called and said, your car is 2 months out still. Because he kind of coincided it. He wanted it to arrive before his next registration date. Well, he's a law-abiding citizen, so he registered his car on time, which a lot of people might have just waited, right? But he registered his car on time. Well, 6 days after he paid his registration, they called and said, your car came in early. So he paid for 6 days. He paid for a whole year and got 6 days. And he can't get it back. Oh. So he was like, I am all for this bill. We need to stop this from happening.
So I'm curious, though.
Yeah.
What motivated you to do this? Did this happen to you, or someone close to you?
Well, actually, I've thought about this. I mean, I've had other constituents reach out about it, but we moved here from Kentucky 21 years ago, and Kentucky had that rule. And so when we moved here and we registered our car, I was like, I don't get any, I got registration back from them in Kentucky, but when we got another car years later, it was like, you don't get any of that back. And I was like, what's going on? So it's important to note.
So that's kind of a personal pet peeve, right?
That, and and I have heard from other people, nobody wants to be double taxed and feed on that. But also important to note that all of our border states have some sort of refund or transfer policy for their car registrations. So
all of them do.
All of them. All of our border states.
For us.
Yeah. So I think it's time we did that. We have people that are going out of the state to register their cars. So in the end,
we just had a bill the other day that kind of clamped down on that.
Yeah, I know. And
I was the sole. I was the only no vote on that bill.
Well, but this would help that problem, because people would be like, well, I can get my money back if I end up not needing this. So, yeah.
So where's that bill at right now?
So it passed the House committee and House floor unanimously. It's sitting over in Senate rules, waiting to get a committee meeting. So
who's going to sponsor that?
Dan McKay is sponsoring that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So fingers crossed.
Well, we don't need any double taxation.
We don't.
We spend a lot on taxation.
Yeah, we do.
So we're about out of time, but any particular issues that you find fascinating this year that aren't your bills?
Yeah, I mean, every year is fascinating, right? You go into a year thinking, this is just going to be mild, and it's been anything but mild, right? one thing I love about this job is you do have the opportunity to do some neat things. And you know me, I'm really passionate about exercise and nutrition. And I actually had a bill that I'm not running because it was just a resolution and wouldn't do anything. And we're trying to stop doing those. But just to support physical fitness in our correction facilities, I had watched this documentary called 26.2 to Life. And it's amazing. It's about a marathon running group that went to San Quentin Prison in California and started a marathon running group with some of the incarcerated folks there. And they would go out and run, and they would work up to a marathon once a year. And so they would do a marathon just around the prison yard, 105 laps.
Wow.
Around the prison yard to get their marathon. And it was so inspiring to me. I went to our corrections director and said, hey, what would it take to start a program there? And he's like, I don't know. And we looked at it, and there wasn't really any legislation that we needed. And so we just kind of went to their...
You kind of wanted to do the resolution, though, just to go on the record.
To get some exposure for them and just get people kind of knowing and thinking about it. But we're going to do that in other ways, because what we've done is they've started that program, and I've been able to go out and sit around and talk with some of the inmates there about how it's going, and they are, no pun intended, running with it. They're they are so excited about it, and they're...
Well, maybe we should do a documentary about this.
We should totally do it, because I mean, it has the potential to change lives, I think. I know what exercise does for me and my mental health. And I think it can relieve some of those stressors and those constant, that, there's a lot of stress for them being in there and kind of dealing with some of the things that they have to deal with. I mean, it would be tough. And if we can help them find a path to help deal with that stress, and when they get stressed after they get out, and help people to find something else besides maybe drugs or whatever might have gotten them in there to deal with what's going on in their lives. Because I know how it helps me with my, mental health, and we're already finding that. They're already, like, in some of the conversations I've had out there with some of the inmates, they're like, I feel better. It's that they're getting that runner's high. So it's kind of a fun thing. I'm really excited about it. And after the session, I'm going to go and try and do a couple of the runs with them.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That is one of the cool things about, being in this public service role, is that you get to affect lives.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. One of the people I was working with when we were trying to get it done, he's like, yeah, they've tried kind of doing some of this, but sometimes it just takes a legislator, like, caring about something and saying, hey, I care about this. Like, what can I do to help that makes it get going? And that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it is a cool thing.
It's a cool thing. So.
Well, thanks for coming in. We're out of time.
Thank you.
Katy Hall.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
See you guys next week.
Thank you.